One of the long-standing franchises that have been getting PlayStation Vita releases is Atelier, whatever you want to call it. I didn't really get into the series until last year. I bought Atelier Aisha on a sale, and since then I've been getting review codes for Eska, Enlogi Plus, Shally Plus, Sophie Plus, and the new game as well. And I've really come to love the series, especially the Mystery series. Because don't get me wrong, I loved Atelier Aisha, I liked Eska, Enlogi Plus, and Shally Plus, but I loved Sophie. So I've been really looking forward to Sophie's sequel coming out. But without any more monologuing from me, here is my review of the PlayStation Vita and PlayStation TV version of Atelier Firis, The Alchemist, and The Great Journey. Atelier Firis starts off not long after the end of Atelier Sophie, and the story revolves around a young girl named Firis who grows up in an underground sealed-off mining village with dreams of one day getting away from the village and exploring the outside world. After Sophie from the previous game literally bombs her way into the village, Firis is introduced to alchemy, something that she discovers that she has a natural ability for, and that is her ticket to go out into the world. So the story follows Firis as she learns alchemy, traveling the world with her older sister on the road to taking the alchemy licensing exam so she can become a fully fledged alchemist. Now there is one thing that I really loved about the game's story, aside from the fact that you got to see Sophie and Plachta show up within the game's first hour. You get to see an alchemist work their way up from ground zero. In most Atelier games, you start off playing as a character who already knows a bit about alchemy. In this game, Firis doesn't know what alchemy is. She has no idea what any part of alchemy is at the start of the game. So you get to see her grow from knowing absolutely nothing all the way to being licensed as a fully fledged alchemist. Atelier Firis is still a turn-based RPG, but it's got some new elements in play that really help expand the depth of the series. Now, the first thing we need to talk about with the expanding is the fact that Atelier Firis is an open-world turn-based RPG. Instead of the point-by-point map system from previous games, you explore everything. Every place you can run around and explore has monsters to fight, materials to harvest, NPCs to talk to and get quests from, and cities you can come across and explore. Now, since it's an open world, how you do things are a little bit different. The time limit system does come back. Once you get out into the world, you have 1 year to get 3 letters of recommendation and take the alchemy exam, but that is very, very, very lenient. Even with wasting a lot of time, I got my first letter of recommendation within the first 60 days. But don't let the time limit fool you. It's lenient, but you gotta be careful. You can't rush through the game because you're gonna run past an optional dungeon type area that has the material you need for a story quest. That happened to me, and I spent over an hour trying to search around to get that first letter of recommendation, only to find out that I completely skipped a dungeon on the way to that village. I had to go back, go in that dungeon, find the materials, go all the way back, waste a ton of time before I could actually progress through and get that first letter of recommendation. One aspect that people who haven't played the series before might like is the fact that combat has a much bigger presence in the game. In previous Atelier games, combat was at a minimum, gathering and creating items through alchemy was at a maximum. Now there's still a focus on alchemy here. You still have to make new items, you still have to make bombs to take into battle for you. You still need to up your alchemy level so you can do all of the synthesis you need for story events. But since you're out in an open world, there are a lot of enemies around you that are going to come at you all the time. So instead of only fighting when you're out in the field and not doing any fighting when you're in towns like previous games, you're pretty much going to have a constant combat presence, which is much more in tune with mainstream RPGs. So if you've been turned off from the series because of the lack of combat, this game might be worth looking into. Now, as far as the alchemy itself, since we are on the topic of combat and alchemy, it's a little bit enhanced from the way Sophie did it. You still got your little grids with the little numbered and colored tiles for each material, so you can get special effects. And there's a catalyst system in there now, so you have specific catalysts for patterns, and you use those if you want a specific enhancement or a specific bonus on the item you're making. Not hugely different, but it's got a little bit more depth to it. Now, overall, difficulty and length. Difficulty isn't too high. You can set the game to easy mode if you're having problems with it, but it's not any harder than Sophie was. There are a few areas where you're probably going to have to level for a little bit before a major boss fight, but overall, it's very, very manageable, even for someone who isn't used to RPGs. As far as length is concerned, typical 40-hour RPG. I was around 40 hours by the time I cleared the story, so you can expect to get quite a bit of time out of the game. Alright, now presentation. Here's where things get a little dicey. First of all, visual presentation. It's a little bit down from what Atelier Vita fans are used to seeing, but it's still really, really nice looking. Like, it's not super duper uber polished PS4-like graphics, but it's still good for a Vita game. Load times are fine too. They're never really that long. The real problem this game has is its frame rate. Now, Atelier games are known, on the Vita anyways, for having frame drops every so often. Walking through dungeons, slight lag with putting in commands during your turn-based battles. But when Sophie came out on the Vita, it was a step in the right direction. It was considerably better than other Atelier games. Atelier Firis is not. A good example of this, which I'm going to show you in the video, in the mining town in the beginning of the game, you'll be running around and it'll be running at probably about 25 to 30 frames per second. So that's pretty decent. Then suddenly, while you're running through this area, the frame rate will tank down to around 10 to 12 frames per second, so it looks like everything's playing in slow motion. This is probably the worst frame drop I've ever seen in an Atelier game. Once you get out into the open world, which is exponentially bigger than the mining town, you're running a solid 25 to 30 frames per second almost the entire time. Granted, there are the occasional sections in the open world where it'll slow down again, not to that really bad point the mining facility had, but still enough to really confuse you. Because now, if you can manage your way through the mining facility, get past the first few hours of the game and get to the open world, it'll be tolerable for you. And it'll be pretty good for the most part. But it's just getting to that point and knowing that there are a couple other areas that have a tank like that. Now, in conclusion, Atelier Firis brings Atelier into the open world genre, and the open world aspect really raises the fun factor. Now, if you can stand the hefty frame drops in the opening areas of the game, then you should grab this, because this is one of my favorite Atelier games to date. But if you're one of those people that really, really doesn't like frame drops, I would suggest you still buy the game on PS4 or PC, because it's a great addition to the series. Reviews to Go rates Atelier Firis a 9 out of 10. If you'd like to comment on this further, feel free to below in the comments section, or head to my website at www.reviewstogo.com.